Hello, hello. Good evening. Buenas noches. How is everybody? I see y'all are here in the comments. Good evening, everybody. So glad you're here. I'm very excited about tonight's guest. If you were here last week, you know that's when we were supposed to chat, but Hurricane Lydia had other plans. So here we are tonight. Um, I am going to be talking to Cherese, who is coming to us from where, Cherese?
Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
See? Um, and we're going to be talking about how that came to be, that she created this new life for herself. And so before we get into that, I should probably introduce myself in case there is somebody new here. Maybe the YouTube algorithm was doing what it was supposed to do, and this video found you because YouTube thought you might be into Black women getting free. My name is Adelia Aborashade. Most people know me as Picky Girl Travels the World, and that is what I talk about. That is the work I do, and that is how I'm living my life. I want Black women to be free, free of society's expectations, free from guilt, all of those things. I want them to be free to live a life that they design, and so that's what we talk about on this channel. Specifically, I share my experience. I left the US 7 years ago and currently live in Mexico City. And so I share about that. I also talk about finances because freedom ain't free. And you got to get your money right if you want to get your life right. And we also talk about travel on this channel. So if any of those things are of interest to you, you are in the right place. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, all of that good stuff. That way, you know the next time I upload a video or I go live with a guest like I am tonight. All right. So, Cherese, how how long have you been in Puerto Vallarta?
This is, let's see, 18 days. Hace 18 días in Puerto
Oh,
Vallarta. I'm going to use a little of my
muy
Spanish too.
bien.
I'm going to sprinkle that in
Muy
there. Yeah.
bien. You're making me feel bad because I should be speaking more Spanish, but I got my hang up there. Okay, so you've been there 18 days, and how okay, this question is actually too big for me to ask,
Okay.
but I want to say, how did that happen?
Mm.
So let's break that down a little bit. You moved 18 days ago, so beginning of October. You and I met in March,
Mhm.
where I think this was a little gem inside your brain.
Yes.
What was your life like? What were you doing earlier this year, like before
Mhm.
March of this year?
Yes. Well, thank you for the question. And I had a big, intense job as a leader in public urban education in the United States. It's still some of the hardest work I've ever loved. And this was 20 years in my career. And I just got really, really sick. And so there were things, literally, my body was sending me smoke signals. I ended up being like a pandemic CEO, and I got my dream job in a nightmare situation. And I had the opportunity to work with incredible, incredible people and even more amazing communities that I care about the most. And it just took everything in us to stay afloat. And what I noticed is somewhere along the way, I kept pushing and pushing. and I stopped listening to my body. And so, to be really fair, I was having some concerning symptoms in May of 2022.
So that's
And
almost a whole year.
exactly. And around the end of 2022, my hair started falling out. I had insomnia. My blood work was all over the place. It was like whack a mole. And I just was experiencing some really severe physical symptoms that scared me. And I just was, whatever it was that I was doing to mitigate all of that, right? My community and dancing and staying in contact, all the things that we are encouraged to do, Adelia, they weren't enough to mitigate how quickly I was diminishing. My organs started breaking down, and there were some symptoms. And I looked up one day, scared, really, really scared. And I knew that there was a intervention needed when I printed a hard copy of my will and I put it in the foyer of my home because I had these recurring thoughts around I might not wake up. And if this is it, I want my loved ones to know what to do. And I don't want them to have to search. So the best I could do was just have a hard copy of my will. And that was a wake up call for me. And I talked to my medical team and I asked for help. And that's where I was. I was excelling in one of the hardest times in public education that we've had in a while. But my rate of hitting my stride professionally, I was diminishing. My well being, my quality of life, my joy was diminishing at like 3 to 5 times the rate. And so I would look up, and at the end of the day, with all of the things, all of the love, many people here who are in the chat and today uphold me and lift me, even with all of that, it just wasn't enough. And I needed to hit the pause button because the next thing to the pause button was the eject button. So I got really, really sick, and that scared the daylights out of me. And I'm sure you've seen, like I've been paying attention more closely in the last couple of years. I've been seeing the most accomplished, amazing Black women and women of color in the room dropping like flies. And so the handwriting was on the wall. And I remember talking to two of my aunties, and I just was like, I'm doing well in this job, but I'm not doing well for Cherese anymore. And I remember them saying, baby, it's okay. You need to figure out how to put yourself first. And when you and I met, I just thought I would do November's Reclaim Retreat, right? Because I'm just going to push through. I'm going to take a beat. I'm going to do this. And in addition to my medical team, one of the things that, and all of them were women of color, um, they said, this is one type of medicine, but you need to figure out what other kind of medicine that you need. And what I know about sisterhood and community is that kind of healing is priceless. So I needed communal healing. And that's what brought me to Reclaim the Retreat because I was so exhausted. I didn't even know what I was good at anymore. I had lost my ability to dream and get excited and imagine for myself. And as an educator, that's what we do for others. And so when you lose that ability to do it for yourself, I was beyond red flags. So that's where I was.
I did not realize. I knew your health had taken a hit, but I didn't realize this was that bad and it had gone on for so long. And you said something about like, I am excelling in this job, I'm killing it in this job, but I'm not okay. And if we can, just to dig into that a little bit. Like, you're noticing you're not feeling good, your hair is falling, like you can see the physical symptoms, and you just pushed on, you didn't stop, you didn't say, do you know why? Because I want to ask you why, but
Mm.
sometimes we do those things and we don't have a clue.
So I think this is part of the medicine, right? The curiosity and the compassion around how I was socialized, right? And I'm crystal clear that since the age of 5, I have been socialized to never look like what I'm going through, right? And I remember some of my non-Black women in my life were like, oh my goodness, I couldn't see. I'm like, you're not going to see it. I'm a Black woman. Like, we don't, we
That
don't,
part.
we don't, we don't do that. You know, as a matter of fact, it's a badge of honor. You know, thank God I don't look like what I've been through, right? I mean, deep, deep, deep. And that did not just start with my generation. That's my mama's and my auntie's generation, my grandma, my great grandmother's, you know. So that kind of like, you just gonna suck it up and push through. I am a recovering people pleaser, right? And responsibility is really important to me, but it's also a fear based value, right? I just very early knew that I was going to be responsible. So much so that that piece around, as a Black woman who's high achieving, high performing, you know, doing all the things, going to the institutions, getting the degrees, doing that stuff, I had internalized the message that I put community before Cherese, right? I made a promise to children and communities who I care about, who I share identities with. I can't, I can't let this go, right? And what a lie. What a lie. Those were the things that were going through my mind. If you know, I can't do this, I got to be strong for everybody else. Girl, that strong stuff was literally killing me. And I just was like, who, what? I know better than this. So I would say that piece, those things are what's coming up for me when you ask me, where did all that come from?
Hmm. I was guilty of that. It wasn't until I was on Marissa's channel, was it last week, the week before, and I had to revisit some memories I hadn't touched on in a minute.
Mm,
And my entire life was falling apart, and I was trying to hold that shit together and project this image of myself, because like you said, I can't look like what I'm going through. And on the other side of it, I realized what a horrible choice that was to make.
mm,
Like, I did more damage to myself and to the people I love, because they would have stepped in and helped me if I had let them know. But I was so wrapped up in putting on this facade that everybody thought everything was great. And I am holding on by two threads. So, no, I hear you on that. I hear you. So, you wanted something else other than um, the regular medicine. And so you opted, because if y'all haven't picked up on this, we met at Reclaim the Retreat. That is the retreat that Ivana Robinson and I host. That our intention is to create a space and a place for women to reclaim their happiness, their peace, their lives. So I am curious, like what, and you said you were initially thinking November. Um, so I have two questions. Why did you come in March? And what about what we were saying this retreat was going to be piqued your interest?
definitely. I was a shell of myself. Like, I remember I would wake up So when I wake up in the morning, I play music, right? Music is just it's a feel good thing for me. And if you hear noise, you know we in Mexico, so excuse me. Things happening, and hurricane recovery and stuff. So anyway, I remember I was listening to "Cry Your Heart Out" and listening to those lyrics, and I would stand in the mirror and just cry and cry and cry. And I live with panic and anxiety disorder, and come to find out, I thought I might have been having many strokes or maybe a heart attack and was going to get EKGs and chest x-rays and all this other stuff because I was having this piercing pain on the left side of my chest. I remember the date, June 12th, no, July 12th, 2021 is when it started. And I would wake up and apparently I would have these panic attacks and then get up and get in the shower and go to work. Right? Like,
Girl,
what?
girl.
And um, so when I tell you, I was so deeply disassociated at that point because one, the more stuff that comes up when you've been ignoring, the more stuff there is to discover. So I am discovering other things happening with my body that are even more major than I thought. And quite frankly, I just didn't know how much time I had. When you put your will out, because you're just not
Yeah.
sure. And whatever it was, I just said, what I've been doing has not been working. And I'm gonna accept the help. I follow you and Ivana and Rashida and Stephanie because 4 years ago, I dreamed of having a career break. And I was like, you know what? After I do this little thing, the next best thing for me to do is nothing. I got it. I'm going to push through. And I just don't know what else to say outside of I almost could see myself dying. And I was like, hold up. Whatever all of this achievement orientation, this striving, this people pleasing, this accumulation of stuff and things, none of that mattered anymore. And I honestly needed a change of environment. So I have a wonderful, beloved community where I was in Northern California, all over the country, but I needed a change in environment. And so my favorite place in nature is the beach. So when I had seen that this was going to be at the beach, I was like, okay, this is my medicine, right? I need a change in environment because I need an environment that's not going to reinforce all of these old habits that have me diminishing at such a rapid pace. And there was guilt, right? Because I let myself down. There was shame because I'm thinking I'm letting other people down. There was embarrassment because it's like, this isn't me, like I push through, I kick in the door, I'm what? And it was
Strong
just
black
like,
woman.
girl, this ain't for you. So that the environment and the fact that we were going to be at the beach and by water, and that I was going to be with other women who were going to be thinking about their dreams. Because what I will say to you is, remember, I told you I didn't have enough energy to dream. That scared the daylights out of me. You can't dream for yourself.
Okay. Okay. And so that was March 2023. We are in October 2023. And I don't know if y'all can pick up on this or not, but Cherese is doing is better. Things are different. She has been living in Puerto Vallarta. So what happened? How did we get to this where you are 18 days in to your new life, your new home, all of that good stuff?
Mm. So the first thing I'll say is rest. One of my teachers is Octavia Rahim, and I have been practicing with her since 2018. And then she introduced the concept of rest as my birthright. And I was like, that sounds good, you know? And I did a program with her twice, okay? And I was like, I need this. So the rest and giving myself permission to rest. So giving myself permission to be honest with my medical team about what's happening, and everybody resoundingly telling me, Molly, girl, you in trouble. You need time off. Like it was straight, you in trouble. And heeding to that. And then I think rest gave me clarity. And one of the mantras I prayed to God every day, just thank you for waking me up. And then I also affirmed, like, I am held in always, always. I'm not alone in this, right? Like, I come as one, but I represent multitudes. I think that's what Maya Angelou said. So, Black women, let's be very clear. What got me here is Black women. What also got me here is sisterhood from other women, right? In my personal and professional life, who were checking on me, who were reminding me and holding up the mirror of my own brilliance, and my own light when I couldn't find my light. And then I just was like, wait a minute, I dreamed about having a career break. I've been following Adelia and Rashida and Ivana and Stephanie and all of these other, Blacksit and Rebloom Room and Halisi. And I'm like, wait. I know what I need to do. The very next thing I need to do is nothing, but I don't know how to do it. And I remember it's just like, be clear on what your what is and be clear on what your why is, and let God, like the great creator, handle the how. And the minute I surrendered and gave myself permission, the path started clearing. And that allowed me to be receptive to the coaching that you and Ivana were providing. That allowed me, it was a space where all you cared about was what I wanted. I hadn't been in a job where anybody cared about what I wanted. So I will say the space at Reclaim Retreat, to have other women and two Black women actually say, we only care about what you want for yourself. And we want you to indulge in putting yourself first and then put yourself again. I got a testimony and I'm here. So rest and sisterhood, and rest, Black women and sisterhood, hands down.
Lisa is here in the comments. Y'all know I spoke to Lisa a few months ago. She was also with us in March. And I can't envision the retreat without any of you that were there. And like you said, the sisterhood, and those of you who watch this channel, y'all know I don't talk to strangers. I am an introverted introvert. However, but I think because of that, I think because Ivana and I are both introverts, we are very keen about creating an environment where folks feel safe and they feel seen. And it's okay to, I don't know, get in community. It's not like, it's the kind of place I would feel comfortable. So like that is something we're very, very keen about creating. And you were there. You had a blast. Everybody had a blast. But you also had a plan,
Mm-hmm.
because when I met you, you might not, at the beginning of the week, you might not have known exactly how things were going to work out, but you were like, I'm done with that old life and doing those things that way. And one of the things that we do at the retreat is we focus on dreaming. and getting clear on what the dream is and what needs to happen for us to get that dream and who can help support us. And so when you left, you had a plan. Now, I don't know that Ivana and I necessarily thought about what folks' timelines would be like implementing their plans, but how long did it take you to implement your plan?
Whew. Mm. Time has collapsed for me, by the way, too, right? So I don't know if I really know the answer to this question because remember, I like kind of was here and wasn't here. Does that make sense? Like, that's how bad I was. I was like, wait a minute, what is it? And let's see. Who I think let's go back to the activation point. Hold it. And I sold 95% of my possessions, right? I came here with like a backpack, a carry on, a suitcase. Okay. I still have my workbook.
From the retreat?
And we, from the retreat, and we were in La Union on that mountain. We were getting that mountain medicine. Um, was it Don Luis? Was that his
Mm-hmm.
name? Who was there?
Don
Girl with his
Luis.
fine self, right? I was like, okay, it's a fine man on a mountain. We thank you. I'll take it. You know, little scenic route. Um, we had that session at dusk, I think. And you asked the question, what is at risk if you do nothing? Something about that question, a lightning rod just went through me. And I still have my response about I if I do nothing, right? Because I walked away with like, let me figure out what I'm gonna do with my housing, let me figure out what I'm gonna do with my job and like honor and value the people who I have so much respect for and do work with every day. And still above all of that, push Cherese up top, right? Like I kept having to practice putting myself up top because it's still easy to put other people's expectations and stuff on there and to be honest with myself. And I remember writing, if I do nothing, because I had my little 4 steps and gotten feedback and everything, it will be the ultimate act of self betrayal. And I won't be able to look at myself in the mirror and respect myself. Something about that question about what if you do nothing? And I was like, oh, that's not an option. So there's the plan, but the moment of activation was your facilitation and your clarity. And the next morning, we were up on that tower. I don't know if you remember this, and we watched the sun
Mm-hmm.
rise. And I'm going to breathe because I might get emotional. And I remember we were just standing there, kind of like in silence. You know, I was
Yeah.
like, I know she an introvert. I ain't trying to mess this up. And I don't want mine messed up. You know, I got to respect those boundaries. And I remember you saying, 3 years ago, I was in this tiny apartment in China in the pandemic and the world has shut down. And you said something like, back then, I didn't think that I would be right here, right now, watching this. And honey, I said, oh, what I'm not going to do is look myself in the eye and not be able to honor myself. Quite frankly, in a way that just has not been modeled for me as a Black American woman. And this is said with love and respect because I have phenomenal women who I share DNA with, who I've chosen as family, who have been in my life. We have seasons and reasons to be together. It had not been modeled for me to put myself first and then put myself again. And who cares if people are disappointed? They'll be okay. But I
They'll be
couldn't
all right.
disappoint myself. So when those two things on that mountain, that was my activation moment. And so you asked me like, how long did it take? I just remember being like, oh no.
Because you had the plan. It was just going to be a matter of putting it into place. And so that's when it clicked. Um, time, once once you unplug from the US, I really believe in, even if you are still living a life in which you work kind of like regularly and whatnot, your concept of time shifts. So she may not be able to tell y'all this, but in 3 months, Miss Thing had changed her life completely. Sold her house, got her business together, was out travel bopping around the world, and then moved to Puerto Vallarta, which we are so happy. That's really why we're here, is to celebrate your new life that you've created.
Thank you. I had a lot of help. And, the way you leave something is the way you start something else. And so, beloved community just matters so much to me. I'm alive because of community, right? And I wanted to make sure that I operated at the intersection of putting myself first and honoring everyone who I was in relationship with, in that life. And that I wasn't running away from something, right? Because I think there's this piece. I've run away from things before, and everywhere you go, there you are. And I remember you even saying, you still gonna be wherever you go. Like the stuff that you got to deal with is with you if you were in Portugal, if you were in Antarctica, like that kind of stuff. So there was this other piece in addition to my physical health, my emotional health. And I thought, I thought I was going to take a beat, be back at work, boom, 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 boom. When I actually came to terms with how bad off I was, I was like, I actually need way more time. And I said, I have to take the rest of this year
Mhm.
to focus on taking exquisite care of myself. And I am going to be open to what that means. And I had already planted some seeds. Like I knew I wanted a less violent form of racism, right? I knew I wanted a less violent form of anti-Blackness. I wanted to really experience more of my privileges, that are just, I don't know, feel so pronounced outside of the US
Oh
in
yeah.
certain
Oh yeah.
places. You know this, I'm preaching to the choir. And so, and then I let my family and my friends love me and take care of me, right? And so I left my community in Northern California and I stayed with my friends. And literally I said, I am doing as little as possible. And basically my greatest teacher was a cat. That cat
I love that.
wasn't checking for me, didn't care about my feelings. That cat slept all day. That cat was very clear about its boundaries. Here's when I want to eat. Don't touch me. I'll come to you when I want some company. And I was just like, is a cat teaching me? Like,
Listen, we could learn a lot from cats, okay? Listen, cats know what's
I'm like, what? And look, my aunt Ann, I think, is on here. She know I'm not a cat person. Mm-mm. My cousin Mia, they're like, I got some family members who love cats. I'm like, I'm not a cat person. My greatest teacher this summer was a senior cat.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, Let me acknowledge this. Thanks, Jess, for the super chat.
Oh,
Um, why why Puerto Vallarta? I think I can
okay.
guess, but I am curious.
So, you know, I love this question. And when I was leading, right, a school system through the pandemic, I had read a text, my colleague and I, who are really close, we both were leading in different parts of the country. We read this text around leadership in the time of like chaos and change management. And so one of my professional strengths is change management, right? I'm a change management strategist and specialist. So I'm really good at like, if you want to change anything, I can help you figure that out. And so I knew I needed that change management help from Reclaim. And so there was this quote around like there's a hurricane and all this other stuff, and this geologist was being interviewed, and it was like, well, aren't you just ready for the storm to be over so you can walk out and see like what destruction and how bad things are, like what the impact. And the geologist said, no, actually, I mean, it was like someone who studies shorelines and across the earth or something, not a geologist. And the interview, the person said, no, I actually expect to find a new beach. And so that was my anchor as a leader to say, in all of the chaos and destruction and upheaval of the pandemic, let's find a new beach. Let's find these new shorelines. And I told you that the beach is one of my favorite places in nature, number one. And so one of my dreams as little Cherese has been to live in a Spanish speaking country, right? I love learning languages and I really love Spanish. Um, and the other one of my dreams is I've always wanted to live at a beach, right? And so I was like, well, I have these dreams, these little dreams from little Cherese. And grown up Cherese had some new dreams. And I was just like, how about I take my own advice and find my own new beach? So that's one. The second thing is the Black Lady.
Uh-oh.
We here?
There we go.
We back?
Okay.
I pay attention to where Black women feel comfortable and feel safe. And Puerto Vallarta, I knew there was a community of Black lady expats here. And I also knew there's a big community in Mexico. So I could just kind of have my pick of where I wanted to go. And it was the path of least resistance, right? It was just to be a neighbor, a North American neighbor made a lot of sense. So Puerto Vallarta was about me finding my new beach for myself. And, I had led an organization really successfully by holding on to that for other people. And I said, well, why don't I turn my superpowers back on myself? And that's what happened with Puerto Vallarta. And girl, the minute I said that, it was like my Spanish teacher, because I had been taking Spanish lessons for a year, ended up moving to Puerto Vallarta and is an expat and was like, let me know how I can help you. And my Spanish teacher, who then became my friend, is actually the reason why I'm in my like really cute apartment. And we're actually neighbors now. So,
Oh, how
like I
cool.
said, when I surrendered and gave myself permission, the red carpet of abundance just started being rolled out for me.
I like, obviously, y'all know I live in Mexico. I talk about that. And what was it? Last week, I was featured on CNBC is like, is it time for people to move to Mexico City or whatever? And because I am a glutton for punishment, I went to the YouTube video and went through the comments, just curious, because I felt that the piece was well done, balanced, showing different points of view, talking to a variety of people. They actually talked to, of the 5 foreigners they spoke with, 3 of us were Black. Okay. And so I was just curious as to how people were receiving it. And I was particularly looking for the comments about racism because we all said some version of, we feel safer here than we do in the United States, and so on and so forth. And some people took issue with that. Um, and I like what you said, that you were looking for a less violent form of racism. It's not that those of us who leave the US believe we going to move someplace without racism, because racism is everywhere. Anti-Blackness is everywhere. But it's about finding the racism you can tolerate, finding the racism that will not murder you, you know? So I like how you put that. Um, and I'm so, so happy that you've
Thank
found
you.
your new beach. I love
Thank
this for you.
you. I
Absolutely.
found it. And when I walked away from Reclaim Retreat, and I think I said this to you, I kept writing in my journal, I live a life that I swoon over. I live a life that I swoon over. And you all had us do this exercise where we drew something, and I was like, oh, and I didn't know, it was like a big piece of paper. Let me tell you something. I still have it. It's a screensaver on my phone. I check in with it. I drew myself in a lounge chair on a beach under a palapa. Right there, I put all of the things around financial independence and, love and peace and pleasure and community and all of that stuff there. And I have been able to go back to that picture and be like, ooh, ooh, ooh,
That's
girl,
it.
hold
I've done it.
on. Like, I live a life that I swoon over. And it's something about that. I want that. When you say something like that, you're like, oh, what's that mean? And I
Yeah.
also think what's so beautiful about this is that I am centering not only my dreams, but my desires. And Black women have to be so calculated and measured and we got to think about this person, that person, the cascade. You want to talk about people who could project plan to do this? What's the cascade trickle down effect of this person, that person, the church, the person around the corner, X, Y, and Z. And I was just like, what? I, I have desires that are worthy of my full attention. And what's been modeled for me has been like, yeah, that's okay, but that's kind of frivolous. Like, what you really gonna do? And so now I'm like, I didn't checked all of the achievement boxes, and there was still a big leak in my life fulfillment, and that's on me. That's on me. Nobody did anything to me. People like, who did it? What they do? Da-da-da. I'm like, girl, ain't nobody do nothing to me. I abandoned and neglected myself. And it ends today. So when we were on that mountain, I was like, mm-mm.
I get asked a lot about like how do you get to that point? How do you make up your mind? And Money Coach Malika said something a few weeks ago that I reposted on IG about like you got to make it up in your mind first before you can make it happen in your life. And like you just said, you've done all, and many of us are guilty of this. We've done all these things. We've checked the boxes, and we're not happy. We're not fulfilled. And it's got to be us that takes the steps to fix that, move us forward from there. It's what we owe ourselves. And I know, you know, as Black women, everybody thinks we owe them something. And I'm going to tell y'all don't owe them people nothing. The only person you owe something to is yourself. And if there are minor children, you might owe them a little something. Because I told this to my daughter. She was stressing about something. And I was like, girl, you don't owe them people nothing. I said, now the only people you owe something to is them three little people at your house that you brought here. But other grown folks, you don't owe them nothing.
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
Absolutely. You
mm-mm.
owe you more than you owe anybody else.
Yes.
And I think some of us know that, but it takes hearing somebody tell us. And so here I am telling you.
That's a gift. It's a gift. Just for Black girls and women and Black American, Black diasporic, those of us who are here because of, the transatlantic slave trade. There's a very specific piece around um, self neglect and sacrifice and appearances and respectability politics. I mean, I'm unpacking all of that socialization, right? And the other thing that I will say that really had me in was the finance piece. So, honey, when y'all had us do that financial audit and said, these what you say your values are: joy. For me, my highest values: joy, freedom, connection, right? Does that money align with that? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm coping and just throwing spaghetti at the wall. And it's not increasing my joy. It's not increasing my freedom. It's not increasing my connection with myself and with others, right? And I eliminated all of my debt in 2018. And I'm so grateful for my former self for doing that, because I started then saving for this. I had my FU money. And then I changed that FU money to self-funded sabbatical money, because they're not doing that in the United States for educators, unfortunately. And I just was like, okay. But when you also took that financial component, when you really look at yourself through the lens of your financial health and the financial opportunities, for us to break that seal and to be open about money and not be embarrassed and not be ashamed in the way you do work, Adelia, to say, start now, right? And so that also was something that was just like, so I don't really have a financial barrier because thanks to my former self, right? I'm my own barrier. And so, what help do I need to have? What kind of conversations do I need to have with myself that only I can have with myself? And so, the way you all gave us opportunities to be together and the way you gave us opportunities to have solo time, right? And a lot of think time. So, for everybody who's listening, I highly recommend the Reclaim Retreat. There is something that you have been putting off since you were 6, or since you were 13, or since you were 21, or since or today or yesterday. And to give ourselves the gift of being held, for me to show up and to not have to worry about a thing, not food, not transportation, let somebody else do that, and to know that I'm held by a picky Black girl who got opinions and all kinds of stuff. I said, oh, she don't really like outside, but we going outside. She gonna do this the bougie way. Okay, I like this.
Okay. Cherese is making reference on the El Salvador retreat. There is a camping component. And I know there's some folks who are like, what girl? We going camping? But y'all know me. Y'all know I do not even like outside like that. So if I can do it, it's okay. It's okay. Um I and that is something else. You've mentioned it a couple of times, that this getting away, changing your location, changing your scenery, because let's be real. Doing the work that we did there, in theory, you could have those conversations with yourself and you could do that in your regular life. But the reality is, would you have been free enough from the concerns of how am I going to get here? What am I going to eat? What have you? I don't think so. I don't think, Stephanie Perry talks about it all the time, about time off is the gateway. Time away is the gateway. And so that's another one of Ivana and I's reasoning about, like, doing a retreat, but doing it somewhere else. Picking environments where you can be fully there and step away from your regular life so that you can really get down to what is the dream and how do we make that dream happen?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And, you remind me the work that you are doing and with Ivana and just the whole leadership in this Black Lady Expat. It just reminds me so much of Toni Morrison says, the purpose of freedom. Like once you get free, you help other people get free.
Oh, yeah. Because ain't none
And
of us free until all of us are.
listen, and that piece around the lack, like I didn't have to have a cognitive lift, right? I had so much space, and that free time is a form of awakened rest, right? Like Stephanie Perry saying it's a portal. That free time, we had plenty of free time. I was like, oh, they understand me. I was like, whew, okay. And then the other thing about the free time was just it created space for such a compassionate level of rigor. For me to have a compassionate and rigorous conversation with my own self, it allowed me to bring 5-year-old Cherese, right, in my reparenting journey. Like how I'm getting here is being my own medicine, right? Being my own parent, being my own for myself. And there, a very dear friend of mine and I talk about self sovereignty. And, she says these really amazing things. And I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. But it takes me like 6 months to really understand it. Um, and this is also the same woman who reminded me this summer about the power of environment. Because I had a really low moment when I was in an environment, I was feeling terrible about myself. And she just was like, this must be environment induced. And so I do think, to your point, we underestimate the power of environment as a condition for us to thrive, right? In a certain container for a defined amount of space. I just hope that we can figure out how to give ourselves the gift of that. Um, and so that's where my philanthropy is going. It is how do I give Black women the rest and the break that they actually been deserved for centuries. That's where my philanthropic stuff is going to.
Just wants to know, are you singing a new song now?
Baby, I found my smile again. That's my song. I had lost my smile. I knew how to put it on. We know how to perform. Baby, I found my smile again. And not only am I singing new songs, I'm hearing music differently. I have access to multiple languages to write new lyrics, you know? Um, like I was missing out. You tired? I was probably like accessing like 10% of life tired.
Yeah.
Baby, remember you talked about no alarm? Changed my life. I set my alarm for my naps. I said, oh, Adelia taught me. Let me set my alarm for my naps, baby.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Um, what and I know you've only been there 18 days, but what's your favorite thing about Puerto Vallarta so far?
Oh. Hmm. The unhurried pace. Within a week of me being here, a category 4 hurricane was like, boop, which is why I couldn't be here last week. And even then, I wasn't worried. I was like, I'm fine. I have a fully charged Kindle. I know people. Shana, Cassandra, and Terry from the Black Lady Expats hit me up like, where are you? I know you're in Puerto Vallarta. Do your people know where you are? Like, literally, sisterhood. They were like, you good? And I was like, I'm good. And the power was out, girl. And the next morning, the roosters were crowing, people were up, they were sweeping, moving things that had fallen, but it wasn't frenetic, it wasn't panicked. I was like, oh, power was out, right? Literally, the transformer blew, and one of the power lines is in the river behind my house, right? Like, there's a power line in the river. My friend knocked on the door and was like, I've gotten 14 hours of sleep. I have read all the books. Would you like to join me at the beach? And girl, we walked to the beach. No power.
She sent me an email and was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to the beach. I'll check in later and see if we have power." Okay.
And you're talking about somebody who the last 3 to 4 years of my life have been like intense crisis management. You know, I was like, I know what a real problem is, and this ain't that on the beach. And what could I do? And so the
Exactly.
unhurried pace allows me to be present, going slowly, make sure that I have a discernment about, is this my voice or is this an old voice or someone else's voice? And is it helpful right now? Right. I think all of us do that. And I'm like, wow. The other thing is that unhurried pace, I sleep a lot still. And I think that is a function of underestimating how deeply, deeply exhausted that I have been for most of my life. And so the fact that so many Black women who I know operate, are high functioning and high performing at such gobsmacking levels of exhaustion, it just, it does something to me. And I don't know what to do about that feeling right now, but I do
I
want to
think
just
you
share that.
being here and sharing your story is going to help someone. And that's because I am an introvert, and here I am talking about my life on the internet every week. Who saw that coming? But because it wasn't me. But I definitely see the value in sharing my story, sharing my experience, because there's somebody that will hear something, and it opens up a possibility that they didn't know was there. Stephanie Perry did it for me when I was at that school in Honduras, and then people was trying to, switch things up. And because I had been following her on IG, and here this 40-something-year-old Black woman was talking about taking an adult gap year, that thought would have never occurred to me
Mm,
had I not seen her do it. And she made a choice somewhere along the line to talk about what she was doing. So I think that's that's part of it. Being here tonight and sharing your story.
thank you. And thank you for helping me. Thank you for being part of my dream team. Like I said, I had a lot of help. And to be in a space that demonstrates and reinforces how much help is available for me as a Black woman. And ain't nothing special about me. I love myself, but I'm very much like, I love when Stephanie Perry says, like, I'm not exceptional. I'm not like, I am a fat Black woman, big fine Black woman, by the way. Let's get that right. Gorgeous, from DC, right? I hope I still have a little bit of my DC accent or a lot of it. I don't know. Like, I'm a regular person. And so the fact that this is so accessible, right? And one of the things that you all did so beautifully, and this is one of my principles as a coach, is like, everything I need is already in me. And so you all help create the conditions for me to sweep up and take inventory and be like, gosh, I hadn't seen this in a while. I hadn't been in this inner room for a while. To be able to have stillness and to sit with Mother Nature and to sit with God. You know, when you're in a beautiful place like El Salvador, and that first night, those waves were just so I couldn't believe the waves were crashing that loudly because I had never been anywhere in the world where I had experienced the sound of waves in that way. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so, if the waves are that powerful and effortless ease, and like, I just was like, wait a minute, something's happening here that you all are doing. And I thank God for you. I thank God for you. I thank God for Ivana and for Rashida and Stephanie. And it is, and all of the Black lady expats who are literally choosing themselves in a way that is a huge disruption. Like,
Oh,
who do you think you
absolutely.
are? Right? And it's just, that's right. Who do you think you are? You need to really answer that question.
Um, Adrian had a question for you. She wanted to know
Hey,
what
Adrian.
song. Did I lose the question? Hold on. Haha, there it is. What's the first song you listened to today?
Oh, I
Do you
love this
remember?
question. The first song I listened to today, I love Beautiful Chorus. It's a group of women, and there's a song called I Am Everything. And it's just an affirmation. Like, they have these beautiful harmonies, and it's just on the loop. And it's like, I am everything I want to be. I am everything I need. So, Beautiful Chorus, I Am Everything is the first song. The second song was Get On Up by Jodeci. Got to get on up. I was like, oh. And remarkably, you know, as teachers, we're used to getting up before the sun is up and having to be in the building and do all this stuff. Girl, I got up at first light because, you know, ever since we got up at first light at the Reclaim Retreat in El Salvador, I was like, oh, this is a thing. And I tipped myself out to my balcony with my journal, with my water, did my morning pages, did my meditation, said my prayers, and came in and made me a good old cup of coffee. I'm not even a coffee drinker. And so those two songs, but that one around I am everything I want to be, I am everything I need is how I started my day. Thank you for that
I love
question.
this. I love this for you. Oh my goodness. This is so awesome. If y'all've got any specific questions for Cherese, please drop them in the chat. We've been talking about Reclaim the Retreat, that is hosted by myself and Ivana Robinson. On Sunday, we announced the final location for where we're going in 2024. We, of course, are going to be returning to El Salvador in February. We're doing a special Galentine's Day retreat, and then we'll be back in December. And in October, we will be in Oaxaca. That it the Oaxaca that one's gonna be something. Let me tell y'all. July we will be in Hawaii, but I'm excited about all of these. But we finally announced where we were going in April. We are going to be in North Carolina. Uh, Ivana and I we've been having a conversation back and forth basically since we've known each other about, the unique experience of Black Americans and how folks are so quick to be like, well, y'all don't have no history and blah, blah, blah. So, the idea again is to reclaim ourselves. And so, to be able to do this in North Carolina, it's a shortened experience. It is not an entire week, it's over a long weekend. So, if you're somebody who's like, girl, I don't have PTO like that, this might be the retreat for you. Um, but and it's really about reconstructing the dream. It is a weekend about dreaming more, dreaming big, and reimagining what is possible. So we're very excited about that. Um, as of this morning, it's one third sold out. already. So a lot of y'all are like, yeah, I'm going to be there in North Carolina. So if what Cherese has said tonight has you considering taking some time away from your everyday life to focus on yourself and put yourself first and remember how to dream, um, go to reclaimtheretreat.com. You can see the dates for all of the 2024 retreats, and you can see the information. Um, re- for the ones that registration is not open on yet, which I think is Hawaii and Oaxaca, you can get on the wait list because when registration does open, they get first dibs, the people on the wait list. So, um, other than everybody saying how radiant and infectious your smile is and how uh, they love your story, I don't see any questions here about Puerto Vallarta. So I'm gonna give y'all another moment in case you got a question that you want to ask, because y'all know I can't really help you when it comes to beach cities, other than they have beaches.
They have
Not my
beaches. I
jam.
can walk to the beach. You know, I think about the criteria, like it's walkable. I can walk to the beach. Other Black women are here. They are happy here. Um, yeah, I can. It's a decent airport, so I can get to where I want to be, or my people can get to me. Um, and I just this beloved community of Black lady expats has helped me change my life. And so thank you for being possibility models. I see some of my beloveds in the chat and sisters in the chat. And I mean, friendship really has been one of my greatest loves. And to be in your mid 40s and be able to meet new people and new friends and, be healthier and whole. And one of my dreams that I mean, I said this before, I'm gonna figure, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do next, right? Like, I don't know. I need to rest first to figure it out. And one of my dreams, I said, I'm going to be able to pay for Black women to take time off to go to the Reclaim Retreat. Like, I hope in a couple of years I can actually make that my philanthropic piece, right? Like, I want to be able to pay you to take a break, right?
That's
What you
awesome.
need? Let me help you. I want you to take a break. And that's thank you. So thank you. And go to the
You're
Reclaim
very
Retreat.
welcome.
Tell another Black woman you know about it. Subscribe, hit the like button, keep following Adelia because she is the truth and very
Oh,
generous in spirit. And she's the person who I want to be cross checking all of my notes. So allow yourself to be held.
okay. Well, thank you for that. We did get a couple of questions. Just wants to know, did you obtain residency?
I am about to. So that's my Christmas gift to myself. I am going to get residency in December. Ojalá,
Okay.
which in Spanish is God willing. Ojalá I get temporary residency in December.
And you already have an appointment?
Girl, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, because I was gonna say
December's a rough
things
time.
get crazy around that time of year. So you got an appointment, you
Mm-hmm.
straight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All
Mm-hmm.
right.
And if
Um,
not, I got time.
okay. All right. Are the flights very expensive to the US from where you are, PV?
I think it depends on I'm learning I have time to think about flights in a different way now, but most places, I think there's like a connection, like you can get, like I flew directly here from Atlanta. It was a direct flight. It was lovely. And there's also on the West Coast, I think there are lots of direct flights from LA. And then, if anything, I just say get to Mexico City, and from there you can hop anywhere, I think fairly easily once you're in country. You can hop
Yeah.
anywhere pretty quickly.
Okay. Did you consider any other places in Mexico other than Puerto Vallarta?
Yes. Mexico City is my boo through and through. Um, Still might end up there. And I also I was thinking about San Miguel de Allende. And then the other place that I was thinking about is Puebla because I love delicious food and amazing culinary experiences. Puerto Vallarta is not the food place. Like Oaxaca has incredible food, right? Like Mexico City, you can get. I heard the food in Puebla is incredible. So I was thinking about those places, and then I followed
Mhm.
the path of ease, and that led me to Puerto Vallarta.
Okay. Um, is Puerto Vallarta hustle culture free?
For me, it is. Um, I just think there's a different pace in Mexico. Like even it's I don't
Because
know.
Mexicans work a lot. They
Yeah,
work 12-hour days. That's pretty standard, 6 days a week. Whether you're, even if you have like an office job per se, folks work, but I don't think their attitude about work is like ours is in the States.
yeah.
Like,
I
yeah, I go to that job,
yeah.
but that job ain't my life.
That's it. It's not the main enforcer of their identity and their worth.
Yeah.
Um, so I think my privilege as an American, right? I have a lot of privileges that are allowing me to exist in this space and design the life that I want. I don't take that for granted. And it's available to us. But I don't feel, even when I go to Costco, I just was like, people, and what I already noticed about like I live in a Mexican neighborhood. People are like, they speak, I'm from DC and you're also from the South, so Black people, when we see each other, we say hi, we speak, we say good
Mhm.
morning. And the fact that everyone is like, hola, buenos dias, buen dia, like something, I'm like, oh my goodness, thank you. Like they have the time to see you and acknowledge you. And you can't miss me. I got blonde hair, I'm fine
Oh,
walking
yeah.
down these streets. But yeah, I think it matches my criteria for an unhurried pace.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Great
Okay.
question.
I think I think that's it as far as we had on questions. Um, as Cherese said a little while ago, if you enjoyed this conversation, give it a thumbs up. Help your girl out because one of my videos got demonetized, and I think I don't think YouTube likes me very much at the moment. So if you know a Black woman who needs to hear this conversation, absolutely share this video with them. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If you just happen to stumble into this conversation and you're like, I need more of this, subscribe to the channel. That way, YouTube will start funneling more of the conversations I've had similar to this one on this channel to your feed so that you can get more of this good stuff. Thank you again, Cherese. I appreciate you coming on here. And I know it might look like, oh, you just brought her on to talk about your retreat. No, I wanted y'all to hear her testimony because there is somebody who is watching this that heard a little bit of themselves in what you had to
Mm.
say. And like I said before, we need to hear and see other people who look like us reimagining their life in some other way so that we can get free too. So, thank you for being so gracious and willing to share your experiences. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. I was so nervous. I'm friendly, but I'm also
Girl,
really private. And I was like, oh, this is my first time talking about well, I talked with an Ivana. You and Ivana the first time I've done it so publicly. So thank you for showing up safe and in sisterhood and helping me design the life of my dreams. I appreciate you.
all right. See y'all next week.